part of
all
that.
it takes, them kids, 1, 2 kids get it and they spread it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, if I was gonna get it would have to be like today, so I can be out by Christmas, because I'm not trying to be stuck home on Christmas.
That would not be good. You stay home for Christmas. You gotta.
Yeah,
Your job probably kind of requires you to be around, doesn't it?
Yeah, we do Christmas Eve, but my wife's family's in Wichita and my family's in Hutchinson, so I can do what I need to do, and
I don't know. It doesn't says Ken on it.
Oh,
But
shoot, okay.
Not too bad.
Well,
Yeah, sit at the next table.
okay.
you have no table to yourself.
In front of it.
she gets the whole desk to herself.
I guess.
The heck?
Ken not coming tonight?
Ken is here. He must be back there.
Okay.
I think it's 6 o'clock.
Yeah, it is.
You said Ken is here?
He's here, but maybe he doesn't understand we ought to call the meeting to order.
Six o'clock, so call the meeting to order. Let show that Ken is not here. He's in the building, we understand, and Dustin will not be here, so. But everybody else is here. And we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. This first order of business is to approve the agenda. Any corrections or additions?
I have 2 resignations that were on the original printed version that we had over here when some people might have picked up. They're probably on your version that I have on your drive, but resignations: Tracy Case, Transportation Director; Tammy Williams, Driver.
Okay. If no other changes or corrections, I'd look for a motion to approve the agenda.
I might just add this. If you see, we've got under action items, I have consider band trip requests. We're going to let Joe Ritchie, after we do our tour, come back and become part of the presentations so he can share what his plans are, and then we'll take action on it later on. But he's got a concert to prepare for, so
Okay.
we need to get him done.
Okay.
I don't know that it's necessarily a change to the agenda, but maybe a change to our procedures, and how we'll handle that.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve the amended agenda?
I so moved.
Jessica? Second?
Second.
Daniel? Okay. All those in favor, right hand. 6-0. Okay. Citizens open forum. Has anybody filled out any visitor comments or wants to speak? Nope. We'll move on. Recognitions and presentations. You want to do the man trip first? Is he here? He's not here?
Yeah,
there
this
he
is Joe. If you haven't met Joe Ritchie, Joe's back there in the maroon. Joe joined us new this year as our band director, district band director, with the exception of you, because somebody else does that. So yeah, Joe, this might be good for you to go ahead and share what your plans are.
Sir? You're welcome. Well, first of all, members of the board, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to hear this trip request.
Thank you.
So really everything that we know about the trip is here in handout I gave you. It's scheduled to be, if approved, March 16th through the 18th, which is on spring break, so will not affect the academic year whatsoever. We have decided, or I have decided, to go through a trip company, which covers charter bus, which covers transportation in Branson, covers meals, covers hotel costs, tolls, anything like that. So you can see there that we have some performance opportunities, as well as seeing some other really incredible performers in Branson. So it's going to hopefully be a really educational opportunity as we get clinicked by a professional in Branson, and also a really rewarding, like, fun relaxation trip for the band after a year of marching band seasons and concert preparations. So yes, that is pretty much it. You see that the prices are gauged per person based on how many are going to be staying in a hotel room. And from what I understand, that is pretty solid. It's not going to fluctuate so much. So.
Joe, I have a question.
Yes.
That's a chunk of money. What are the fundraising activities that kids take part in?
Great question. So I will ask the parents and students to absorb most of the cost. But I will be working with students on a case-by-case basis if such needs arise. Through the marching band season, parents and students work the concession stands, which will go towards that budget or that account. So if they work a concession stand, they will get money towards the trip. Any other questions? So we will not be requesting transportation during that time. It will be chartered. It's their own bus. And so they have personnel overseeing that as well.
Tell me again what the dates were.
13th through the 16th. It's on the second page of the handout.
I'm sorry.
16th to 18th.
Oh, sorry.
Is that what it is? Oh,
Anybody else have any questions, or I guess we'll take action later, but.
Yeah, he won't be here, so if you have any questions, make sure you ask him now.
Yes. I will also take questions at my school email, jritchie@havenschools.com.
How many kids are you taking?
Hopefully 38.
Okay.
Or 36, plus a few chaperones.
Cool. As a former youth pastor, I totally support the use of an outside tour company to make your life easier with 38 kids.
Yes.
I've been there without it before. Not much fun.
Yeah.
And I'm just that's a great point. In my previous job, I went on these trips. I went on every one in 10 years. And I always appreciated the fact when we hired another group. It's one of the things they do, I don't know if they still do, they call it nighttime supervision.
Yes.
So you go to the hotel and there's somebody there roaming the halls. It wasn't me losing my sleep. It was somebody from the tour company that did that. So
Amen.
they come wake up a sponsor if they have to. But
That's actually included in the package. Security guard at the hotel. So yeah.
And if something happens to a bus, you're not scrambling like, what do I do to fix our bus?
Yeah. So I think I didn't include the total here. I potentially should have. If you add up the totals to a lump sum, I think it comes out to around 15,000. But if you want the precise number, I mean, I can give you what I added up, or you can add that yourself.
Close enough for now.
Yeah, close enough for now.
Any other questions? All right. Well, really appreciate you guys' time, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we're going to do the tour now.
you bet. Just want to give you guys a chance. Some of you have been there, but let's go see the auditorium and the wrestling room. And
That's why we're here tonight.
I haven't seen him either.
You're gonna.
I'm sorry.
I'll do it this
Oh,
way.
there we go.
Yeah, I'm not shaking anybody's
What'd
paw.
you do to that?
Pardon me?
What'd you do to that?
Burn? Flash fire. That still smarts.
Yeah, and it was burned.
This is sounding pretty cool. Sounding pretty cool. You guys don't look at a really good country.
Oh, I get to hear them every day, so.
Well, look,
Oh, no, it's a Coke. Dog or Coke. A Coke. Coke beer. She got Doppler. That's
Yeah, sorry. Can we get some duct tape on that, please? I don't know who put the card in the middle.
The orange. Oh, no, excuse me. Okay, okay. Yep.
Did you guys have weights down there when you were here? Did you use it?
We worked out.
The weights were over in the
That
old
was a
pink
weight
gym.
room.
No, in the pink gym?
Yeah. Which is no longer.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Oh. That's good.
Here's Chris.
Where'd he go? He was just right behind me.
Oh no, he peeled off.
Yeah, here he comes. All right. Guess we're still on item 5. Recognize outgoing BOE members. Clark.
Yeah, as you guys know, we have one board member is not here. Dustin is completed his term, a 4-year term. You know, if you remember, Dustin kind of had to be coaxed into running. We had a situation where nobody ran, and I think he became a write-in vote. He always likes to tell the story. I promised him it'd be 1 meeting a month for about an hour. We've never had 1 meeting a month for an hour, so I don't know where he got that idea, but I just wanted to start by sharing appreciation for Dustin filling in and doing that for us. And he was on a trip and unable to be here tonight, but still wanted to share our appreciation for 4 years of commitment. And then we have Bill. And Bill's in his last meeting tonight, and we thought Bill had served 2 terms, and he tells me it was even longer than that he stepped in for one portion of one before that. So we've got a plaque we'd like to share with Bill, and it just says, with sincere appreciation for your outstanding leadership on the Board of Education. We had 2013 to 21, but it might have been even before that. And I've got a little message for you there to share with you, but if you'd come up and take this picture, we might want it in the paper or something like that.
Thank you.
So thanks very much for your service. And I would say to both of them, it's not been the easiest years of service that maybe you could have had.
How true. All right, on to the consent agenda. Financial report. Danelle.
Okay, our ending cash for the month of November is $4,459,079.36. Expenditures for the month, $1,749.31. Payroll, $430,819.41. We had no transfers. Warrants for the month was $569,929.90. Checks that were over $10,000. The City of Haven, $22,568.34. That was for utilities. Ben E. Keith, $35,465.41, food service. MKC, $10,984.70 fuel. RCEC, $180,709, that was sped flow through. The City of Haven, we had 2 checks, 2 payments in 1 month. It's $17,530.13 utilities. Irrigation Unlimited, $19,475 sprinkler system.
I might just add the irrigation. If you remember, right at the end of the year, we approved to try to spruce up our look over at Haven Grade School. So the irrigation's all in, but no grass as of yet. That's coming.
Okay. Any other questions for Danelle? Principal and director reports are written and they're in your drive. Does anybody have any questions to any of those that are here? If not, we'll go on to the next. Report none. Superintendent report. That's Clark.
Yeah, first of all, thank you. Many of you signed up to hand out checks this week, and you have a document in your drive that I would refer you to. And so starting on Wednesday, I'll expect Daniel and Chris will meet me at Haven Grade, 7:45 in the library. That's the first one on Wednesday, and then you can see on Thursday. We have Chris and Jessica. Friday we have a bunch of them handed out, so we'll start with Ken out at Yoder. Everybody have access to that, can see what you signed up for, or know when to meet and all that. This is a big deal. It's a positive thing. And so just to give you a little heads up, I'll introduce you, but then I'll ask you to share something with the staff before we start giving out checks. This is our time to make sure they know they're appreciated, especially during a tough couple of years. So might be thinking about your speech that you want to give to them. The pastor down there, I'll probably tell him it needs to limit his speech. But,
Jessica said I could have her time.
So anyway, you can kind of see the time, so we kind of bounce from one to the next and things like that. But please let me know if for some reason that doesn't work, because we'd love to make sure we have a board member at each location. Bill's got the best one because we have lunch at the district office on Friday. You'd all be welcome to be there, but we have we're always partying at the district office.
It's been my experience.
Transportation consideration. If you remember last month, you kind of asked me to look into. I've met with Durham School Services. I don't have a number for you tonight. Met with them. They asked us for several items that we have provided to them. I heard back from them today, and they said they thought it'd be the end of the week. So unfortunately, we missed this board meeting to tell you what that number is. I might just share, it was a good conversation. One of their thoughts is if we were to do this, that we would maintain ownership of the present buses. They'd take that into consideration with the cost. So that means we're still insuring them, we're still owning them, but we would no longer be purchasing any new ones. Any new ones would be bought by them. So that's how they would transition that in. But they made it very clear that they would have to have our employees, because they just said we have limited numbers just like you guys do, but would certainly want your employees. And the one thing he gave me a caution of is make sure you know we're probably going to have to pay them more than you're currently paying them to get them. And so you have to understand that might reflect in your costs yet too. So as soon as I get that, I'll go ahead and email it out to you, and we probably won't bring it back up until the January meeting. But obviously, there would be maybe some reasons to do that, but might be some reasons not to as well. So we'll make sure that's on the January board agenda. Lastly, HVAC upgrades. I put several things in your drive that you can refer to that I'll just bring up to you. First of all, you'll see an item called USD Haven Schools Upgrades and Improvements, and then Upgrades and Improvements Schedule. We're working with a company called Basis Engineers, mechanical engineering company. I'm going to try to simplify what we have to jump through to get this approved, but it's considerable. So we had to hire an engineering company to come in and do an analysis of our current HVAC units and the air quality being provided. Many times air quality means how much outside air are you bringing into the building. And so they've done that, and if the document that says HVAC upgrades and improvements, if you open that, you'll see on the very front page are their recommendations. And so it does show units at each building. Certainly the preschool, certainly the district office, Yoder, Haven Grade, Haven Middle High School, everyone is kind of represented. And as you might understand, that was somewhat intentional, is that we were trying to make sure every building got something out of that. And every building, in the good news, maybe not good news, had a need, had something that met their criteria to say, yes, this was important. So that's the first thing, is just the scope of what they've proposed. That scope is over $700,000, which was more than we wanted it to be. We still do not plan to ask for more but we're gonna ask for approximately 500,000 in our ESSER 3 request. By the way, our ESSER 3 request is also in your drive, and it's been adjusted a little bit. So I say that because what that will mean, either we're gonna need to do the other projects out of capital outlay, or we're gonna put the other projects off for a year or two and do it as we're ready to do it. So the good news is ESSER covers until 2024. There's nothing that says anything has to be done in the very first year. So in the meantime, I've made a request to the Kansas Historical Society to make sure we're not tampering with a historical site requirement. And I've also asked our mechanical engineer for a statement on environmental impact of replacing HVAC units. And I've secured that. So that's another requirement. And then once I've had to get those two, which I'm still working on the letter from the Historical Society, is we'll do a pre-bid approval through KSDE to bid these projects. So I want to talk a little bit about timeline. So that's the second item there, HVAC upgrades and improvements schedule. So this company, Basis Engineering, will be helping us through this process. Their cost will be put into our ESSER 3 request. So we're trying to make this cost neutral for the district. So you can see a timeline there. Probably what I want to share with you is, this is going to be 2 bids. Part of the problem is getting the product in, as you guys all know. Whenever you order something, it's going to take a while to get it in. So they are suggesting at the February board meeting, they will have already bid these units, and we will have a low bid for you to consider at the February board meeting. Just to order the units, rooftop units. So all we're doing is buying the product. We do that so they can be in by the summer. Order them in by February so they can be in by the summer. In the meantime, and I forget the timeline, it's like March and April, we'll be bidding the labor. Someone else to come in and take the products and put them in. And so that approval may not happen until April. So it's what I've learned, it's a complicated deal. And yet the good news is we expect 500,000 in improvements to be paid for through ESSER funds. So double-edged sword, I think that's a good thing. I think it allows us to make some upgrades that it may have taken us years to fund through capital outlay. So I might just, as I'm finishing this up, a couple of other things that you might want to look at that are in your drive is, first of all, our ESSER 3 survey. If you haven't looked at that, that was also another requirement, is to make sure our patrons and our parents and our staff got to provide input as to what they thought we ought to spend the money on. And so you'll see survey results. It's called ESSER 3 Stakeholder Feedback Document. And you have to go to it, and then you click on, let me go there. If you click on the responses, it'll tell you what those are. It'll tell you where the responses came from, who they represented, and then what they thought was the most important thing. The good news with that is the vast majority were ones that we had already decided we thought we ought to spend money on. So it just really confirmed some of our expenditures. So that was good. And then the other document is a copy of the ESSER 3 request. We've updated that. If you remember, Kara showed that to you a couple of months ago maybe. So we'll continue to upgrade that. We'll probably ask for approval of that document with when we're approving so certainly by February at the latest, we'll ask for an ESSER 3 request approval. If you remember, our dollar amount's $1.1 million. 20% has to be, is required for learning loss. So kind of that middle section qualifies for learning loss. And so we want to make sure we're meeting the requirements put out by KSDE. So I just covered a lot of things. Are there any questions on that?
Lots of hoops.
That's my report for the day.
Okay. Minutes from November 8th meeting. It's in your drive. I assume you've all had a chance to read those. Any additions or corrections to those? No. Let's move on. Resignations. We have a softball coach, Amanda Ish, Clark, and then the two we added, Tracy Case and Tammy Williams. So then we need to have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Chris, second. Ken, all those in favor, right hand. 6-0.
If I just add, I placed by your table a superintendent search document by KASB. That'll be one of the items that'll be discussed tomorrow at the special board meeting. I didn't give Bill one and I didn't give Dustin one because they won't be a part of that process. I have given Darby one as our new board member, and I have one yet for Ryan Blueball. So that'll be part of tomorrow's meeting. I might just add, there will be 5 current board members at the meeting, 2 and 3. Darby and Ryan are not official board meeting members yet, so they can't vote or take action on anything tomorrow, but they'll be part of the training, part of this process. So one of the things you'll be asked to do is to approve the KASB doing the search. So this is just for you to bring tomorrow night, but in the meantime, you might have a look at it. It'll be better covered tomorrow, I would assume.
Okay, on to action discussion items. Number 1, consider the band trip request, which we already heard. I guess we'll just look for a motion to approve the request as presented earlier. Does anybody want to make that motion? Chris, second. Jessica, all those in favor? Right hands, 6-0. Now we have to have an executive session for personnel. 30 minutes. Clark?
Seems like a long time. I think it might be accurate.
Okay.
You need to read that motion, Bill?
Yeah, you feel read it. You got it up there,
You
Jessica.
bet. I move the board recess to executive session to discuss issues with current staff members pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception under KOMA. The open meeting shall resume at, what do you want to say, 7:10?
Yeah.
7:10, to include the board and Laurel Scott and Clark Weedle. Is that correct?
Second. Is there a second? Second. Daniel's got it, I guess, first.
And we'll go back to the room. For some of you new guys, we're going to the biology room.
Yes. Okay, raise your right hand.
Excuse me.
You've got vote up. 6-0. All right.
It's always cold in there.
Go down, don't let us go over 30 minutes.
Give her done, so we're not
About wearing plaid. In red, white, and blue. Ken's kind of there. Ken's almost there.
You may not like it, but you listen.
That is pathetic.
If you want something.
That's right. Well, I mean, I kind of hope there's at least a little bit. Yeah, absolutely.
We've got background music now.
Oh,
All right, we're all back in open session now. And we're on to item number 3, staffing levels. Clark.
Yeah, so in your drive, you have a document called Class Size Review. I think I shared this with you last time. Jess would share, starting with Haven Grade School. So the idea would be the potential of hiring a class size reduction teacher. I wrote that out to the side there. Probably upper elementary. You see our numbers in 5th and 6th grade currently, and they're bigger than they probably ought to be. But after that, the numbers look pretty good. So the question would be, would you add a 4th grade section? Because if you look right now, we have 3 sections of 3rd grade. And so that's going to make big numbers if there's only 2 sections of 4th grade. And then you still would have 6th grade. So that would be a challenge. So the idea is and it can't always just be about numbers. Sometimes we find out there's needs based on kids that are in those classes that kind of trump that sometimes. So I would say kind of what we would be thinking right now would be an added section to 4th grade. But it's early. The thing I want to remind you of, if we're going to hire someone, we need to start that process in probably February or March. She's over here talking January, but yeah, February, March. You know, we want to get what we can get. Right now, we don't know big numbers. I would refer to you, and you'll hear us talk a little more about Yoder Charter School. If you click on those numbers, you see that they are low, and our numbers are down at Yoder Charter School. And obviously, that's something that could be considered is through encouragement or procedures to try to get some kids from Haven Grade to Yoder Charter School. Don't have quite all the answers to that, but maybe when we talk about the charter later on, maybe we'll do some conversations that might encourage that to happen. But that's certainly something to consider as far as trying to balance out student numbers a little bit. Then I'm going to click on Haven High School. And really the challenge we've talked about there is the language arts department. And so I've just listed off to the right there. If you remember a few years ago, we tried to hire one of our virtual teachers to also teach language arts. And so I got that in bold as maybe one of our primary ideas is to shrink those numbers through all the language arts classes potentially by offering, having our virtual teacher also teach language arts at the high school. Another option we put in there is someone from the middle school teaching some language arts. We do have some teachers in middle school that are certified up through 9th grade, so they could teach 9th grade language arts. It says 0.5, but it might not be that much. And then always you have the opportunity, the thought of hiring a full-time language arts. Just thinking about those 3, that's kind of why I highlighted the virtual teacher there. So it's December, but I wanted to keep this on your thought process because at some point in time we need to talk about staffing levels so that if we are going to hire someone, we get started in a reasonable time to do that. Questions?
Back on the Haven Grade School, so when you talk about adding a teacher to 4th grade next year, but that still doesn't do anything about the 6th grade, well, will be the 6th grade situation. And I guess, do we just assume we would probably keep 3 kindergarten classes?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say We have, I don't know, it's not really policy, but we've tried to emphasize more sections of lower grades.
Right.
Smaller class sizes of lower grades. I don't know how long it's been since one of you guys has been in a kindergarten classroom, but it's
I hear about it.
it's a little crazy in the kindergarten classroom. So I think that's the idea, is that we would want to do more with the lower grades and try to have smaller numbers at the lower grades. Kindergarten's a tough one because you can do kindergarten roundup, but you don't really know how many are coming
Yeah.
until even enrollment or a little past. So you can't wait till then when it comes to hiring.
Do we have any thresholds for like adding paras to classrooms or something like that where we do have high numbers but don't necessarily?
You know, we used to, but through some upgrades to our policy, we've taken that out. But that's not unusual for districts to say a para will be considered at this number.
Just another thought I just had popped in my head. At Yoder, if the numbers don't change, we already have combined classrooms, maybe make it first through third and third through sixth, and bring one of those teachers over.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that.
Because they'd still have small class sizes. But the goal is to grow it. I know the charters would be talking about that, but that'd be something to consider. Okay. All right, any other questions, comments? Guess we're on to item 4, capital improvement projects.
I'm gonna go ahead and project this if I can here. So in your drive, it's under related items. I'll project the same thing up here, but we've looked at this many times over the years, and it's kind of our capital outlay master. And so you could see the previous 2 years, what we've done and how much we've spent. But we're looking at 21-22 now. These aren't actually really new items. They've been on here for a while, but I want you to, I'm hoping to consider the 3 blue items tonight. And so we've talked about this electrical upgrade for the stadium and softball fields. Somebody, I can't remember which one of you brought up the idea of, have we looked into LEDs for the football stadium? I don't know who I got that from, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John.
Well,
I think
John?
John initially. Yeah.
So when we built the stadium, wasn't very many years ago, it was considerably higher to put LEDs, so we chose not to. Now Chris has looked into a company and given us a quote. It's $125,000 to retrofit them to LEDs. You might say, why am I bringing that up? Because that might be an alternative to this electrical project, because you're talking about needing much a less amount of electrical service when you have LED lights up there. So I don't know what you think about that, whether you want us to look into that further, but I still left this idea on there. Certainly it's a cheaper alternative, but then again, you're not having LEDs up there as well. When some would say, over the years, you're going to save by having LEDs up there. So I just wanted to make sure you heard that. The other one is update the roof. If you remember last year, we had a company come out and evaluate all of our roofs, and we created a document that shows them all, gives us an inventory, tells us what kind of material they're made of and things like that. This is the next one they had identified, and it's above the shop's the ag and the industrial arts building. So that number is a little higher than it was last time because Chris followed up with them and said, hey, you gave us kind of a ballpark, and now it's gone up a little bit. And I'd say that's the trend. By the way, if you're asking where we got these numbers, Chris will typically get with one vendor to get a ballpark. These haven't been bid yet. One vendor gives us a ballpark. We think it's going to cost this amount. That's how we start the process. So that roof would be upgraded. And then the last one there in blue is the window system. Are those windows up there in that black area?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I can't see them from up here. I think on the two sides. So if you remember, for some of you guys that are new, when we had roofing done with a bond, they wouldn't warranty up to the windows because there's not enough space between the existing roof and the window. They couldn't bring enough roofing material up there. So in this system, or in this option, and that's where we got the $98,000, it would replace the windows, and then the roofer would come back in and extend the roof up to the windows, thus making it be covered by warranty. So both the window company and the roofing is in that. So that's where we come up with the $98,000. Chris, do you agree with what I said about that process? It would make it become a warranted roofing material.
Warranty the roof at that point.
Yeah. So as you can see, I just put a total amount there of $345,000. So what I'd like for us to consider tonight is, are we ready to say to Chris and I, go bid those three projects? You're not approving anything until you approve a bid. We're just looking for you to say, hey, yes, go find out about those three projects. I'm going to give you one more little bit of information in case you're wondering about it, because I do. Capital outlay expenditures. We put in our budget $1.2 million. And if you remember, we always pad that budget big time just in case something happens, which means that's the most you can spend, but you're not expected to spend that. We've spent about $440,000 thus far. So we do have a good chunk of dollars. $440,000 does include the bus, the 2 mini buses that we purchased last year out of this year's fund, and our energy payment, which is always a big chunk. So that's already been paid. We do have another interest payment to pay to the energy financing. But it's much less, what, 30, 40,000 or 20,000 or something like that. So we do have the funds. I wanted to share that so you kind of knew what you're thinking about from a capital outlay budgeting standpoint.
On the electrical upgrade options, has anyone said, versus, I know this LED concept is kind of new. We've been talking about the electrical upgrade for a while. Has somebody that's smarter than me about electricity said what would be better? I mean, is it the electrical so outdated we should do the electrical upgrade versus the LED, or you see what I'm asking?
Yeah, I think that the electrical upgrade would be nice because we'd be moving a pole and moving it to where it wouldn't be up above the ground, which that needs upgraded anyway. So I think just not doing anything, we're going to be doing it in the future anyway. So I would, if I was saying what I would agree on, it'd probably be the upgrade, not the lights. The stadium lighting is expensive. I think the other stuff needs done regardless.
Can those poles and lights be, like, I know we're replacing LEDs as time and money permits elsewhere, can those be gradually changed, in your opinion? If we were to do the electrical upgrade now and then potentially do LEDs down the line?
I think the lighting would look funny out there.
Oh.
Because it's so much brighter.
I see, so you'd have one really bright one and then,
Yeah.
I gotcha,
You'd have
okay.
shadows at
Might
night.
give you some home field advantage though.
Yeah, you just put the
Yeah,
really
you can do
crappy
that.
lights on the visitor side. Okay.
What per load range would we be reducing by going to LED?
I think they told me about 50% is what they said.
So we also
They think
have,
it would pay off, they told me, it'd take probably 10 years to pay off the difference.
How many nights do we run the lights in a year?
Yeah.
And
I'm surprised that you could even do it in 10.
I remember when we were working with our architect and the question came up, and I remember he said to me, he said, for as little as you run the lights out there, it's probably not worth the extra expense to go LED.
Eventually, the price will come down. They've already come down some, but maybe a few years from now, that'd be something to look into. But I like the idea of the list. I really like the idea of this because this is leaked since day one, and someday it will rain again.
would the LED be included in the softball fields? Or just the
No,
football?
just football field.
Okay.
So you just need a consensus from us to go get bids.
Yeah, really, that's what we're looking at. Do you want us to look into those 3 projects? And if so, we'll be creating an RFP and putting it out for bid.
I think everybody's pretty much in consensus to at least take a look at those items. Have fun. Number 5, consider new high school drama account.
Yeah, this is a simple one. If you remember, each year, usually in July, I think it is, we ask you to approve new accounts. And most of the time, it's the new freshman class coming in. If you remember our auditor, who's going to be here next month, by the way, they're usually here by now, but they require us to have board approval for any new accounts that get created. So it's here at the high school. It's part of the activity count. You say, drama? I didn't know we had a drama. Well, now we have a new auditorium. We have a little more interest in drama. And so I had a staff member come to me and say, hey, can I have a drama account? He's already started raising funds. Yeah, it's Paul Clements. I said, Paul, are you going to do a drama next year or a musical? Absolutely, I'd love to do one. I said, well, we've had that supplemental for years, and we've never hired it because nobody's ever wanted to do it. I don't know if that had anything to do with the auditorium. I don't know. May have. But he's really excited, wants to do it, and does have some funds, so it makes all the sense in the world just to have you guys approve an account, and he can put his funds in there and maybe raise some more.
Okay. So I have a motion to approve the account. Ken, second. Who wants to second it? Paul? All those in favor, right hand. 6-0. All right. Moving right along. Consideration of renewal of Yoder charters. Clark, Shannon, who?
We're both
Okay.
going to do some of this. But I'm going to have to look here just a second.
Yeah, I think, are you gonna show this slide? Pictures? Can you turn this here again? Well, I'll start off here. I'll give you a little kind of background for those who don't know. Charter schools, right now they renew every 5 years, and so Yoder's is renewing here at the end of this year in June. And, really, as on the agenda, it's just kind of consider to renew the charter. Many years ago, there was funding, there was kind of a reason to have it, maybe for money purposes. That's not the case anymore, and so I talked to a gentleman at the KSDU today, and he'd asked, well, what would be the reason that you would want to renew? You still want to renew, and so that's kind of why we're here today, just to consider it. But, really, for us, it's based around the community. There's kind of
premise behind having that charter title. And plus, there's some ownership with some of the items that we put in there to have that charter. But Clark's going to bring up here some pictures, and so this kind of segues into maybe a revision along with our charter. And right now, our charter is based around our community in the sense of it involves the reading, the writing, speaking, and listening. We're not going to eliminate those by any means, but we were looking at maybe revitalizing not only charter, Yoder charter, but also perhaps our enrollment. This has kind of been sparked by a community member who has done some work with me along this kind of process. And so the notion would be to maybe look at mimicking this place, Walton Charter here in just outside of Newton, but they're part of the Newton School District. And so myself, Mr. Schmidt, 7th and 8th grade teacher at Yoder, and then a couple of parents went and visited Walton Charter. They're a rural charter, and they've been around, I want to say, about 10 years or so. Their renewal's up this year as well. I visited with the principal today, just kind of visited with her about the process and how they're going. But as we go through here, they're an ag technology type charter. Every class, they're a K-4 building. They serve about 160 kids. And every classroom has an animal, if you will, that they take care of. They're self-sustaining, so that's one of the notions of having an animal. So as you see up here on the left, they sell eggs. So one classroom takes care of chickens, so they'll sell eggs to kind of help self-sustain that. The other picture is just kind of an outbuilding that they have. They'd like to just kind of want to scroll through some pictures. So they've got a cow out there, some goats. They'll do some, some projects. And again, this kind of ties along with Yoder and their project-based learning. But they'll have all these different projects that they'll do with these animals, along with taking care of them, building some ownership and taking care of these animals as well. And so the 3rd grade classroom, they sent us a home with some samples of some goat milk soap. I haven't tried it yet. I'm sure it's wonderful, but and so again, a self-sustaining kind of item that they were able to market that and sell. They've got a greenhouse as well that they'll have in the spring. They'll do some plant sales and stuff like that. So here's kind of one of their barns or sheds that they'll have. They'll actually have some classrooms out there, so if there's a birth or something happening, they can actually kind of have a classroom out there. This is also where they'll probably start some of their chores. Every day their kids will go out and do chores. They've got a rotation of how that happens. So once again, they're kind of learning how to help maintain and take care of these animals and taking some pride in what they have. Just to maybe tie it back, as a staff, as a building, we kind of felt that this might also work with our community, kind of in our rural community. So, keep scrolling there. Yeah, like I said, they've got some outdoor classroom, and that's just a picture of the park that was nearby that they utilize. Mr. Schmidt and I said that a couple of parents, I took these pictures and went back to our staff at a late start just to kind of get their ideas and opinions. I'll tell you, there's some good buy-in. The staff seems very receptive to this. So, there's some excitement already just with the thought process of maybe kind of revitalizing our charter and Yoder itself to increase enrollment. One of the notions that our patron had kind of emphasized this was we want people knocking down our door, driving 30 miles to bring their kid to our school. And so that would be the hope. Walton, they've got, I want to say, maybe a dozen or two kids that are kind of in Walton, but the rest of them are, you know, bussed in from, you know, from kind of internal Newton. So there's some pins and things like that, and yeah, just trying to get your thoughts and feedback on, you know, if this is a consideration for how Yoder should look at maybe a future charter for the next 5 years. And then also, I think Mr. Weedle can kind of elaborate on this too, but as I said, we've got a patron or two that's very supportive and kind of helped driving this with me, with us right now. And so also to maybe add to, not even for the future of next year, but even maybe this spring, and potentially piloting some wheat chickens and/or a greenhouse, which I've also visited with the staff, and they were seemed very excited about that. So a lot of information, but Mr. Weedle, I don't know if you want to add any of this, or if anybody kind of has some questions.
Mr. Atherton and I had a meeting with this patron the other day, and he's gone so far that he wants to help fund something. So we listen a little bit when somebody says, I want to help fund. And so my plan is to let him come to a board meeting in the future, maybe January, maybe February, and share some of their thoughts. But I think one of the thoughts we'd like to consider is some piloting this spring, sometime this school year. Not sure what all that been. You know, I get a little uptight when I think about, I told him, I said, we're not going to be butchering any chickens and having kids involved in that. So, you know, it just depends on the community buy-in and where it would be acceptable or not, and that kind of thing. So I think those are the things that we need to consider, but we'll leave it on your plate, and we'll bring it back in the next month or two. And I know Mr. Atherton does have to complete a charter application this year for next year, so kind of like the idea of the concept of it. It's just how it fits for us. And it doesn't have to be exactly what Walton does, but that was a model to start with.
Yeah, I think there's some good things that we could take from that, and by no means we don't want to dismiss, you know, what we've been doing in our community. And, you know, we're not going to give up the reading, the writing, the speaking by any means. But I think this also does fit with our community, and as Mr. Weedle talked about earlier, you know, would this help also create any, you know, excitement about, let's say, Haven Grade kids or kids outside of the district wanting to come to Yoder? And so just all those kind of questions and thoughts keeping out there.
Would you have a way to try to evaluate or gauge interest in something like that? I mean, certainly driving a population of Yoders is an important topic, so I don't know. Before we get real serious about trying to decide whether to do it or not, I think we need to try to understand what the level of interest would be, even if it was just internally from the HGS student body.
Yeah, we've had some of those conversations. I think, you know, one of the premises of having a couple of pilot options here in the spring would be able to gauge any extra interest for the future with just getting, you know, a couple of items here now. You know, the greenhouse and the visibility, and then, you know, also maybe looking at some sort of plant sale or having, with the meat chickens, having some sort of, you know, off-campus, you know, sale or butcher or what have you. So potentially, you know, that. But it's up to David, you're right. That goes into the conversation of, you know, do you try to create some excitement and interest of Haven Grade kids to come over there, and then, you know, yeah, how do you dictate that?
I could see where it would open the possibility of drawing some of the students back of our more conservative background or religious settings, that they would see something of value in that teaching.
Yeah, I think that would be one of the things too, kid, you know, obviously that community, they're out there rural and ag and whatnot, and so maybe even helping, get them back into the building with some partnerships and assistance and, you know, yeah, absolutely. We'd be looking at that for that too.
I think it's great. I mean, it teaches the kids responsibility and lots of other things outside of just the regular education, and that could be a good thing to look forward to.
Or the property and facilities. I mean that looked like quite the. Would there be a plan? I mean, I don't even really necessarily know what kind of the property lines look like at in Yoder, but anyway.
Yeah, I haven't visited with our maintenance director yet on any of this.
Okay.
Might be a little shell shocked about some of this talk. You know, I'll tell you, I asked the principal at Walton kind of, how did this even, it just didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
You know, how did this come about? And so she kind of explained to me, well, you know, they started with this and they did this and they did this. And I explained to her our premises and what we have. And she's like, you have basically a blank canvas. You know, if you guys wanted to kind of mirror this in some manner, you've got a blank canvas to kind of start that for the future. So we've got space
Okay.
to mirror and kind of do this with the maintenance director's approval. So we'll have to start some conversations with him about some of that too.
Okay. Cool.
When it's a charter, does that, I don't know what all that means exactly, but can you turn certain students away if they don't fit the mold of, sorry, this is in the public light, and I'm saying this in a terrible way. If they don't fit the values that you're trying to, kind of promote, we've had conversations at these board levels where that has been a real tough conversation to have in the public eye. I don't know if you remember what I'm talking about, but.
Yeah, you know, I would say you could write some items in your charter that might fit that. Now, I don't know if we get to another level. I don't know if we have to do any more research on that. But we've visited about some of those conversations.
I hate to bring that up, but I think that is, like, preserving some of those values is some of the importance, I think, to maybe the community.
Sure.
And I think when we brought some areas over to Yoder, I visited with some of the classrooms, and I was observing in some of the classrooms, and I thought it was an interesting mix myself. So it was just, I don't know how that works moving forward if we're talking about bringing kids from possibly outside our district, and I just curious how that works when we're thinking about opening ourselves up with something new.
I called the Newton superintendent on this, and they have boundaries that if you live here, you can go to Walton, but he says we do allow them to make requests. And so I think we would want to build that in our policy, or to say, well, we have some boundary things right now, but I think it would be pretty easy for us to say, if you wanted to come, you could make a request and be considered.
But if you've been kicked out of 5 different school districts, we might not consider your request or something like that?
Oh, I think that's always true.
Okay.
Anytime we have an out-of-district request, I tell the principals, be thorough.
Gotcha. I don't know how that process works, so.
Yeah, the district would have the leeway of, taking or denying, ideas would be, we'd say, in district kids, then get kind of to that manner as well, how you have those requests handled, so.
Sure.
And potentially through, revision of the policy.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments? I guess we're gonna go ahead and proceed.
Yeah, we'll keep it on the plate, on the burner.
Because I think everybody's pretty much in consensus of that. Yep. Right? Okay. Alrighty. Number 7, approval of work agreements and contracts. Got a couple. Assistant coaches. track coaches? That's it, right? Just two?
2 assistant track coaches and then the work agreement for
Oh, there's a
Samantha
driver, yeah.
Schroeder, driver.
So I have a motion.
Do you have anybody?
Are those co-assistants?
No, they're just assistant
Oh,
track.
do we have a head coach?
Not yet.
Oh.
That's not from the bottom up.
I don't know. I can't do it. I might think about it, but
So, anyway,
Sorry, just curious.
okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the
okay,
work agreements and contracts.
okay. Motion by Jessica, is there a second? Ken, all those in favor, right hand. 6-0. Under reports, we're going through here in record time tonight. RCEC report, Ken?
Not much there. We just were able to hire some of the interventionists early on now. So we got some of those, so that's pretty good. But it seems like we always have a rotating door of people coming and going. So, so that was there, but there's not much of anything that we discussed of anything. But I did hear from the rest of the board and the director. They're sorry to see that we're losing our superintendent. And so, but they all wish you well. So that's it.
Okay. Well, to the board member reports, Ken, you got the floor. Do you got anything else you want to add?
No, I'm good to go.
Daniel?
I don't have anything.
Don't have to spring it on you this time. This
No,
month like
I'm good.
Jessica?
I just want to say thank you for your time on the board and serving as president. And appreciate all your time. It's a lot of dedication and commitment. And do you have a book to hand us over with the energy transfer to keep us on schedule with that?
No. Thank you. Chris?
yeah, well, as Jessica said, thanks for doing what you've done. And Dustin, if you're gonna watch this later, thank you, sir. I know you're watching. All right. No, but seriously, just thank you guys. Appreciate that, and yeah, I'm excited about the board we have, and I'm really pumped up for training tomorrow, and so just looking forward to continuing to move the district forward.
Oh,
Thanks, Bill. And I think the auditorium and restroom room look good. I think that was money well spent.
Yeah.
okay. Well, thanks everybody for your thoughts and comments. It's been a long time. Lots of ups and downs. You know, one of the downs is I came to this. It was in Bryce. I mean, he was great. So, and then all the other school closings we had, and thought those were bad, and then COVID hit, and that was even worse. So, you got it made going forward. So,
Yeah.
Shoot, we hope so.
Darby stepping in, and Daniel last month, and Chris a few months ago. So, and I thank Clark too. I won't be here when he officially steps down, but I want to thank him for all he's done. Capital, like the things we do through, we didn't have before, like the capital improvements list. I think that's been a big blessing. We didn't have that before Clark was here. And another feather in his cap is the school foundation. He really took that off. We were at the point where I served on that as part of the board. And we were discussing maybe even closing that up, and we've grown that. We had just a few $1,000s when we started. Now last month we talked about we've hit that $100,000 barrier. So in just a few years. So that's thanks to Clark. So he's done a great job. He'll be missed. But thanks, and I do understand wanting to go off into the sunset and try something else. It's been a tough time to be a superintendent.
It's a great time to be a bus driver.
Yeah, you go get your CDL.
Just grandfather.
Yeah.
You know, I might just add, and I'll get to speak to the rest of you later on, but maybe not for Bill. But you know, I made a comment in an interview. one of the things that I think everybody looks for is compatibility between the superintendent and the board. I've always felt that here, and certainly worked with a couple of presidents now, and just really appreciated that from Bill and certainly Bryce, and so I just wanted to say, especially to Bill, because it's his last one, sure appreciate that working relationship.
Thank you.
That's pretty good in there.
It does.
All right. Danelle?
Well, I'll see everybody tomorrow,
Okay,
All right.
except for Bill. He's gonna
Yeah.
miss out on the fun.
yeah. All right. Next board meeting tomorrow night. The regular meeting, January 10th, with the new board being installed by that point. And we're on to item 10, and I'm going to make that motion to adjourn.
Hey, before you do that, I just want to touch base on tomorrow night. We start at 6. We'll have dinner for you. So if you want to come a little early and get your dinner, serve it, but we'll start the meeting. We do have Gary Sechrist from KASB coming. If you remember, especially when you get on the board, sometimes you get encouraged to go to new board training. And they do those all the time, especially after we have elections. They've just combined that into one for us. So it's new board training, but it's also board training for everybody. What they called, what's the term they use for it, but board training. So it's combined into one, not just for new ones, but for the existing ones as well. So they'll be talking about starting the superintendent search as well. So kind of a big night. And there's a basketball game at home, and I signed up to help supervise, and I told them, oh gosh, I guess I can't be there. So these two administrators will be taking care of that tomorrow. So yeah, come early and get a plate of food.
We'll be over there.
Yeah, we'll be back in the district office tomorrow.
Okay. Anything else before I make my final motion? Okay, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Ken second. All those in favor?